Good afternoon, my name is Michelle Corona, and today I'm going to discuss sexual harassment. The goal of this course is to get you familiarized with sexual harassment, and by the end of this course, you will be able to distinguish sexual harassment and illicit behaviors in both the school and work environment. Objectives include: you'll be able to define sexual harassment, identify welcome or unwelcome behaviors. You will be able to understand why it's important to talk to someone about how they're feeling if you're sexual harassed. You will be able to describe what to do if you're being sexual harassed at school or work, and list examples of sexual harassment. You will be able to compare and contrast sexual harassment. What is sexual harassment? It's when no means no. Sexual harassment is any unwelcome behavior of a sexual nature that makes you feel uncomfortable, fearful, or powerless and interferes you with your schoolwork or any day-to-day activities. Sexual harassment can happen to anyone, male or female, student or adult employee. This abuse of authority is illegal regardless of whether you refuse sexual demands or submit to them. There is a Title IX Sexual Harassment Guide. The Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, the Title IX, prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. The guidance provides educational institutions with information regarding the standards that are used by the Office of Civil Rights and that institutes should use to investigate and resolve allegations of sexual harassment of students engaged in by school employees or other students or third parties. Ask to see your school's sexual harassment policy. Schools are required to have a Title IX or sexual harassment policy, and it should outline the proper steps or procedures you should take and those that they will take in response to sexual harassment. Many schools include this policy in their student handbook. The school office should also have a copy of this policy readily available for you to read. If nothing happens, after complaining to school officials, you can contact the Department of Education of Civil Rights and file a complaint against the school. What are my rights? Types of sexual harassment. Quid pro quo is a term used with sexual harassment, and it means this for that. An example of this form of sexual harassment occurs if a teacher or any school employee stipulates that your grade or participation on a team, etc., will be based on whether you submit to unwelcome sexual conduct. A hostile environment. An example of hostile environment is Julie no longer wants to date John and has told him so. John, however, continually behaves as if they are still dating. He phones her all the time. In the hallway at the school, he comes up and touches her, and Julie does not want these advances towards her. John is really making a fool of himself. John may be unaware of their past relationship. What he is doing is really not unwelcome by Julie, but he better catch on soon. John's conduct is affecting Julie's ability to participate or even learn at school. John's behavior, because it is sexual in nature and is repeated and not wanted, is sexual harassment. A hostile environment exists in which Julie no longer feels safe. The verbal, physical, or visual forms of harassment that are sexual in nature, sufficiently severe, persistent, or persuasive, like John, for example, and unwelcome, fall under the category of hostile environment sexual harassment. A single severe incident, such as a sexual assault, could create a hostile environment. More commonly, a hostile environment is created by a series of incidents. Sexual harassment at school. Sexual harassment at school is illegal under the Title IX of Education Amendments of 1972, which we had said earlier, which prohibits sex discrimination in school receiving federal funds. This law applies to all school-sponsored activities, athletics, field trips, extracurricular programs, and bus or school-sponsored transportation. What should I do if I'm being sexually harassed at school? Do not ignore the sexual harassment. Tell or write the person who is harassing you to stop. If you're able, tell the person directly. Write in a letter that you don't like his or her behavior and that you want it to stop. In a situation where you're afraid to address the harasser directly, you'll need to involve your parents and/or school officials. Talk to someone you trust about how you're feeling. Friends, a trusted teacher, sibling, parents, pastor, all can be helpful in giving you loving support as well as ideas on how to stop the harassment. If you're being sexually harassed, inform your teacher, counsel, school principal. Either you or your parents can bring the situation to their attention. The school has a legal responsibility to respond to sexual harassment of its students. Is it flirting or sexual harassment? Behavior that is enjoyed or welcome, such as two students enjoying flirting with each other, would not classify as sexual harassment. Is waking Sleeping Beauty with a kiss sexual harassment? Is it welcome or unwelcome? Unwelcome is a key determinant in whether or not behavior constitutes sexual harassment or not. Only unwelcome conduct can be sexual harassment. To quote the U.S. Department of Education, conduct of sexual nature is unwelcome when the student being harassed did not request or invite the conduct and regarded it as offensive or undesirable. There are situations where it is obvious and reasonable that behavior is unwelcome. Offensive verbal taunting, physical grabbing, and again, of sexual nature. There are also situations where it may not be so obvious. Consensual dating, joking, and touching, for example, are not harassment if they are welcomed by the persons involved. The welcomeness of the conduct will depend on the recipient's reaction to it. This says, I do solemnly swear that I will never again pinch, fondle, or make any kind of inappropriate comment about a nurse. Just a little joke. Outright rejection. A little quote says, she said no, but I know what she really meant was yes. A woman who shakes her head no and walks away when asked for a date has made her response clear. A woman asked out for a romantic dinner by her boss may say, not tonight, I have a previous commitment, when what she really meant is no way, not ever. The invitation is not inherently offensive, and the response leaves open to question whether the conduct was truly unwelcome. Don't ever let this happen to you. Examples of sexual harassment. Sexual comments about your body, sexual advances, propositions, or suggestions, sexual touching, sexual graffiti, or sexual gestures. Sexual or dirty jokes, spreading rumors about other students' sexual activity, touching oneself in a sexual fashion in front of others, talking about one's own sexual activities in front of others, showing offensive or sexual pictures, stories, or objects. Those all may be sexual. Is it really sexual harassment? Is this verbal or physical behavior of sexual nature? These are all questions that you can ask yourself. Is this conduct offensive to a person who witnessed it? Is this behavior being initiated by only one of the parties who has the power over the other? Does the employee or student have to tolerate that type of conduct in order to keep his or her job? Does the conduct make the employee or student's job or school environment unpleasant? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, put a stop to the conduct. Sexual harassment is never pretty. Stop it before it gets ugly. What to do? Invite the alleged harasser or to lunch or dinner or to parties after the supposedly offensive conduct has occurred. Flirted with the alleged harasser, wore sexually provocative clothing and used sexual mannerisms around the alleged harasser, participated with others in vulgar language and sexual horseplay in the workplace. Remedial action. An oral or written warning, deferral of a raise or promotion, demotion, suspension, or discharge, are types of remedial action that can happen to the sexual harasser. In conclusion, things to do: admit that the problem exists. Never deny it. Tell the offender specifically what you find offensive. Tell the offender that his or her behavior is bothering you. Say specifically what you want or don't want to happen, such as, please call me by my name, not honey. Please don't tell me that kind of joke in front of me. Do not blame yourself for someone else's behavior unless it is truly inoffensive. Choose to ignore the behavior unless it is truly inoffensive. Try to handle any severe or reoccurring harassment problem by yourself. Always get help. In conclusion also, sexual harassment is a major issue of today's society, and it's very underrated. Being sexually harassed can make you feel degraded and incompetent, either in the school or work environment. And that concludes the topic of sexual harassment. I hope you found it to be very beneficial. Thank you.